First, just like my S8 Ultra that I daily drove for about 6 months, the Tab S9 Ultra is massive. 14.6 inches of screen real estate on a tablet feels obscene, and in almost every scenario, this device feels like the equivalent of using a laptop, in all ways. It isn't particularly light, and it isn't particularly cheap, but it is definitely the most impressive tablet on the market when it comes to immersion. The 14.6-inch 16x10 AMOLED display reaches an average of 420 nits and a peak brightness of 930 nits in HDR content. Watching YouTube videos and browsing the web is a joy on this device, thanks to the massive display. No other tablets on the market can rival this display size and clarity that we have seen so far. Even devices like the MacBook Pro 14-inch look kind of small next to this. For our use case, we can definitely take advantage of that more rectangular format. Stereo speakers are great too, getting loud and clear in our music testing, which we can't post for copyright reasons. We used this device with Samsung's $350 book cover keyboard, which we found to be a poor imitation of the better keyboard book covers like the Apple Magic Keyboard or even the Logitech Combo Touch. The hinge is floppy and can't really support its own weight, so Samsung elected for a kickstand that comes out from the back of the device. We think this is a fine choice, but it's definitely worth noting if you're coming from a Magic Keyboard device that doesn't have that constraint. The magnets aren't very strong, so the order of operations here should involve deploying the kickstand first and then flipping the keyboard out, since the hinge on the kickstand requires more force than the keyboard's fabric hinge can take. Regardless, we think that this keyboard book cover is about $150 too expensive, since it is kind of flimsily built, doesn't provide much protection, and doesn't have pass-through charging like the iPad does. A device like this aims straight for the iPad Pro, and in general, looks like a pretty good device to be the all-in-one laptop replacement that some may be looking for. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is a powerhouse, and while it is functionally slower than the M2, it has plenty of power to make it the most powerful processor available in an Android device, despite being potentially much slower than the M2. The general feeling of using this device, for all reasonable purposes, is snappy and quick. I wouldn't buy this for video editing or hardcore gaming, but this device still gets the job done for most productivity tasks, and DeX makes that even better. Speaking of productivity, the aspect ratio here makes side-by-side multitasking wonderful. Writing this script with reference specs and notes was a pleasure, as I never had to sacrifice real estate for either of my windows. This leads us into my final thoughts. If you're looking for a tablet that can serve as the fastest video editing, drawing, and gaming workhorse machine, this probably isn't it. The iPad Pro has a faster CPU and GPU. But for normal people's productivity-focused workflows, this is one of the best devices that money can buy. And also, it looks really, really good.
In some ways, my views on large tablets, say an iPad Pro 12.9-inch or other larger tablets, are more complicated than mine on small tablets. On the one hand, I love the extra screen space for pretty much everything I do. It's great for drawing, reading, watching Netflix, whatever. On the other, I do have to acknowledge that there are times when it would have been great to have a tablet and I haven't, because at that size, it's become something that I need to intentionally bring with me rather than just throwing in my bag in the morning. Also, not a huge issue for me personally, but I know it annoys some people. The portrait viewing and using experience of a tablet does seem to get worse as the screen sizes increase. Personally, that's made up for, in my opinion, by the greatly improved landscape user experience, but that's also really the only way I use my tablet, so if you do things differently, your mileage may vary. Overall, I find the trade-offs to be worthwhile, and for what I do, more screen size is pretty much always going to be an advantage. I'm drawing or reading on my tablet 90% of the time that I use it, so I'm never going to complain about more screen size. That is, however, also a slightly double-edged sword, because as much as I like the increased screen size, once it gets too much bigger than that roughly 13-inch number, I'm probably not going to be carrying it around as much, because then I'm basically carrying around another laptop, and I'm going to start wanting a more specialized device. In other words, I really like the iPad Pro at 12.9 inches and similar size things. I also like the idea of drawing on a tablet with an even larger screen. But if I was shopping for a device like that, I would probably start looking at dedicated drawing tablets, since those are going to be even larger than the largest of general use tablets and provide a more feature-rich drawing experience, all while the downsides would kind of be irrelevant, because, like, yes, they're less portable and I can't use it without a computer, but that wouldn't matter because it's not like I would be carrying around a 16-inch iPad with me every day anyway. It would also just be living on my desk. In general, I think there's a lot of utility in a tablet, especially the middle-sized ones like regular iPads. From reading and light web browsing to teaching yourselves the beginning of digital art, almost anyone can find a use for a 10-inch or slightly smaller tablet. But if you're going larger than that, I think you really need to have an actual purpose for it in mind, or else you're probably going to end up regretting your purchase. The prices increase quickly, the bulk can quickly become more than you want. It just ends up not making a whole lot of sense if you don't have an intentional purpose for it. The benefits are fantastic, but they won't necessarily apply to everyone.
Thank you for watching this video. You can click here to learn more. Thank you for watching this video. You can watch more of our videos at the link below, and don't forget to subscribe. Writing this script with reference specs and notes was a pleasure, as I never had to sacrifice real estate for